Hi, welcome to NicheCraft. I'm your host, Kassi, and today we are going to learn how to make our first stitch, and that is called the single crochet. And let me tell you, when we get done with this one, and then we get done with the next one, you will have the three most basic stitches done. Okay, wait a minute, three? Yeah, okay, I'm going to teach you the single crochet in this one, and the next one I'm going to teach you the double crochet. And then you already know a stitch that you don't even realize you know if you're a beginner, and that is the chain stitch. So I would say that at least half, if not more, like 75% of all patterns are going to just use single crochet, double crochet, and a chain, okay? But we're going to learn so much more with this channel. But right now we are going to start with making a cotton dish rag with single crochet only. Now, if you went out and you got some cotton yarn, awesome. If you haven't, it's okay. You can use whatever yarn you have on hand. We're going to be working with a 4-weight cotton yarn, but you can work with a 4-weight, any other kind of 4-weight yarn. And we're going to be using a J hook, okay? If you have a yarn that is a different weight, just use the hook that it recommends for that yarn. Also know that if you're not using cotton, then you've got to be very careful if you use that as a dishcloth, because acrylic will melt if it's exposed to really, really high temperatures, and wool will felt. You know, there's different things that fabric will do when it's exposed to heat. And cotton is the best to use for a dishcloth, but this doesn't have to be a dishcloth. This could just be you practicing, okay? It doesn't have to be a thing. So we're going to start. You've got your J hook, hopefully, and some cotton yarn. I've already gone ahead and unraveled a little bit, so I have some to work with. And I've got my tail right here. Now, if I was working with a ball, I've got a couple of options now. I'm going to open this up, okay? And when you open it up, you're going to want to be a little careful here, because some companies will print I don't know if you guys can see that because it's so tiny. It's tiny, tiny print, but they will print a pattern inside of the roll for you. Also, it helps you be able to see all of this, which are the care instructions. We'll go over what these symbols mean later. And so that's why you don't want to break it. But if you do, that's okay. It's, just do it however you like. If you don't have a little roll over there already, don't worry about it. So you can either crochet from the outside, okay? This can be a little bit frustrating because you got to keep unwinding it like that, okay? Kind of like a cone. Or you can crochet from the inside. And the way you find the inside is that you just kind of open it up like that, and you start pulling on some until you find one. You do it very gently until you find one that's got that end, okay? And this, you can then just keep pulling from the middle, and that is generally the best way, I've learned, in order to keep your yarn from getting tangled. Do whatever is best for you. Also, if you start out with brand new yarn or maybe old yarn and you've got this little fray in it, just take your craft scissors or just regular scissors if you don't have craft scissors, and just cut that off so you can start with a nice one if you care about that stuff. All right, so I'm going to put this little ball to the side because I'm going to be using this big cone. And for those of you who got stitch markers, we're going to be using 2 stitch markers to keep track of our rows, okay? Because one of the biggest beginner's mistake is that they add or they decrease stitches with every single row. Now, for those of you who want to know which row we're on, I've got stitch markers here, and I'm going to pour some more out. And what I'm going to do is every time I'm on another row, I'm going to add a stitch marker so that you know which row we're on. Okay, so let's start with that slip knot that I taught you. If you didn't see it before, is how I do it. I pull up a loop like this, okay, with my hands. All right, I'm going to do it on the table right now so you can see it that way. And then I identify the long end of the yarn, okay? And what I do is that I then pull another loop that's that long end through while I pull this as well, and it'll turn into a great slip knot. Now I'm going to undo that again. I'm going to show you how I do it, because the way I usually do it, I don't do it on a table like that. I just do it with my hands like this, so you can see that process too. Either way, we've got that starting loop that's a slip knot. This is not a stitch, it's just the starting loop. And what we're going to do is we're going to chain 25 loops. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to chain. For those of you who did not see the first video, you might want to go look at that to learn to chain, or just watch me here. I hold the string in between my index finger and my middle finger right there. I hold on to this knot with my non-dominant hand. With my dominant hand, I can then pull loops through this. Now, if you're left-handed, you do the same thing, only you use your left hand to pull through the loops, and you use your right hand to hold onto the string. Okay, so what we're going to do, not counting this loop because this is our slip knot, we're going to pull 25 loops through, and I'm going to count with you. Okay, so this is a chain. That's one chain. Okay, 2, 3, you can use this middle to gauge. 4, don't get frustrated if it splits. Some cotton yarns are more prone to splitting. You can just put that hook right back in there. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. All right, so I've got 25 stitches here, or 25 chains really is what I should call them, because they're not a stitch. This is going to be called row 0 or your foundation chain. Usually this is not counted as a row. Okay, so now that we have this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little stitch marker here, because we're going to be doing row 1 now. Okay, we're going to learn the single crochet. So whenever you get done with your row, okay, and right now we're on the 0 row, which is our chain, you will, with single crochet, you will crochet 1 extra stitch. Okay, then you're going to turn your work. Okay, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to go in to that first stitch here. Now, you can go into this stitch if you want. It might just be a little bit awkward. It'll probably be less awkward to go into this one right here. Okay, if you go into this one, then you'll have 24 stitches. If you go into this one, you'll have 25, whichever one you want to go through. You will see that each loop, it's got like a, it's got a little hole in it, right? Now stitches are going to look a little bit different than chains, but some people like to go through both of the loops on a chain. And I don't mean both that one and that one. I mean, if you look to the side, you'll see that there's kind of 2 loops there. It's kind of hard to see, but you might be able to see it. We're not going to worry about that. We're just going to be worried about going through each hole in a row. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to hold the work with our thumb and the rest of our fingers like that. Use our index finger to get that tension and then do all the work with our dominant hand. Now, again, if your hands are not shaped the way mine are, then all you have to do is make sure you're providing some tension and making sure that you're able to kind of hold your work so that you can create enough tension to go in, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that stitch right there and go into this stitch, okay? And so when I do that, go into that stitch here. A crochet, just think of a crochet as pulling a loop through 2 loops, okay? So first you pull up a loop. Now you've got 2 loops on your hook. Then you pull up another loop through those loops, okay? Kind of like a chain, right? This is your first single crochet stitch. Now, the reason why I have 2 of these stitch markers is that I'm going to go ahead and place this stitch marker in that first stitch, okay? I am going, you can see it by, once you do that single crochet, you'll see like 2 loops like that. That is the first stitch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it underneath both of those little loops, and then I'm going to close it like that. That way I'll always know what that first stitch is, where it is, and I'll show you why that's important in a minute. Okay, if you don't have stitch markers, that's okay. We can still work with it. Okay, I just know that I don't always use stitch markers for my rows. I'm just doing this because we want to make sure that the beginner with it, if you're a beginner, you are going to be able to keep track of where you are in your work. Okay, next you do the same thing. You pull up a loop, then you pull another loop through those 2 loops. There's your second single crochet. Go into the next hole, pull up a loop like that. You've got 2 loops on your hook, pull another loop through both of them. There's your third crochet. And if you start looking at it, you'll see that they're starting to look more like stitches. If you look at it, if you turn it around and look at it like this, you can see that there are these little almost like V-shaped places right here. And that is each stitch. Okay, so we've done 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go into the next hole, the next chain, pull up a loop through. There's 2 loops on your hook. Pull another loop through again. Now if you want to make sure that your stitches are going to be exactly the same, you'll want to pull this through here, and you can do that by just moving your finger. So when I'm done pulling up a loop, it's on my crochet hook, I put it right here in the middle because I was taught this was a stitch gauge. Pull it through with your finger, and then you go into the next one. And pull up a loop. That's 2 loops on your hook. Pull another loop right through both of those. Now see that? Did you see how my hook kind of caught on that? That's called splitting. Okay, some yarns split more often than others, but you can either undo it like by doing that, and you undo it by pulling this one, or you can just go through, and when you hit that split, you can just kind of reposition your hook so that it won't so it'll go through the whole 2 loops. So that's another single crochet. Now some of you are going to be working and you're going to just get it and you're going to keep going, but I'm just going to keep saying what we're doing for those of you who it's taken a little bit of time. Now you can always slow down or speed up the video by going to the settings and changing the speed. I'll sound kind of funny if you do it. So if you want me to speed up, then you can make the speed faster. If you want me to slow down, you can make it slower. Just in case you do, if you're getting frustrated or whatever, you can always rewind, you can always pause, you can always practice and practice. There is no right way to learn this, okay? Another thing I just want to say, a lot of people when they're first learning, they'll like hold on to the hook really hard, and they'll hold on to the project really hard, and they'll tense up. What I want you to do if you're doing that is to think about it like you don't want to lean into your work, you want to hold the work, okay? So I want you to kind of sit straight up a little bit. Relax your shoulders. Take a few deep breaths, okay? And when you feel loose, then go back to it, because the looser your posture is, the less it's gonna, any of the repetitive movements is gonna start hurting and all of that. If you're holding it in a way that you're comfortable, you should not experience pain from making crochet, okay? The pain that I've ever experienced from making crochet is if you get arthritis, your hands are going to be a little stiff and you're going to want to exercise them every so often, okay? Sometimes my wrist will hurt a little bit, and I use like a little wrist brace to make sure that my wrist is okay because of the repetitive movement like that. Now that's when I'm working on a blanket all day, okay? And sometimes when I lean into my work, I notice that my back hurts, okay? So we're going to try to make sure that we are comfortable when we're crocheting. All right? So let's get back to the single crochet. I'm going to pull that loop up, pull another loop through the loop. Okay? Pull that loop up. We've got 2 loops on our hooks. Pull another loop through both loops there. All right? We are single crocheting right now. You can do this as fast or as slow as you need to, okay? Don't have to worry about where that stitch marker's falling. If you don't have a stitch marker, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that either. We're just going through each loop as they come up, each chain space as they come up, and we're putting our hook through it, pulling up a loop. We've got 2 loops on our hook, pull through 2 loops. Okay, doing it again. We just keep going all the way down that row until we get to the very last stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to be doing this with you, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what's going on in my life, so you have a little bit of chit chat here. So my son had a fever yesterday, might have been the day before, and apparently the flu's going around. But after kind of lying around all day and then sleeping through the night, we did give him some Tylenol. He woke up feeling pretty good, so I don't know if it was actually the flu or if it's a cold, or if he just has a good immune system, but my daughter was starting to feel uncomfortable last night too, so I don't know how she's doing today, but I'm just hoping that me and my partner don't get real sick either. I do feel like I have a little bit of a cold right now, but I've got my water. I always have water right next to me. I drank some tea last night. Just making sure I'm taking all my supplements so that I don't get sick, because that's never fun. I have allergies, so sometimes I can't tell if I'm sick or if I just am allergic to something. And our weather has been changing a lot. It went from like 70 degrees to we had snow all over the ground. And then it right now, I don't know what the temperature is now, but it's nice enough that all of the snow is melted. The birds are out. You might hear my cat in the background making little chirping noises at the birds, but yeah, we've had some kind of weird weather, and sometimes that quick change in the weather can bring on allergies or can bring on just your body just doesn't want to adjust to it, and can change the air, like the air quality, like how humid or dry it is, and all of that can contribute to feeling a little uncomfortable. So yeah, even my back kind of acted up a little bit. So I'm at the end of this first row, and I have 1 more stitch left, okay? So I'm going to go through there. I'm going to pull up a loop. We've got 2 loops on the hook. Then I'm going to pull through both of those. Okay, so this was the last stitch. I'm going to take this crochet, this this stitch marker. I'm going to put it through here, and now this is going to be kind of silly, but you'll see why I'm doing it, because I just want to show you why I'm doing it. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Okay, now I know, now that I've chained 1 and turned, I've got that little loop right there, and then I've got the one that I put my stitch marker in. So we're not going to go into that loop. We're going to go into the one with the stitch marker in it, okay? So I'm going to undo the stitch marker, and I'm going to go through this one, pull up a loop. Now I've got 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to pull that through. So what you'll see, I'm just going to remove my crochet hook here, is that is our first stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that crochet stitch marker, we're going to put it right there. I'm going to put another stitch marker on here because this is now row 2. So anyway, yeah, so the birds are out. We've got bird feeders right next to our window. So the cat likes to look out and look at the birds, and he'll chirp at them. He'll make that cat chirping noise. So yeah, because you're not going into chains, you know, we're going to be going into these V's. What you're going to do is you're going to put your hook underneath that, okay? And I just want to show you, you could put it underneath there, but that's not where you're going. You're going just right underneath there, okay? And we're going to put it underneath both of those loops right there. Then we're going to pull a loop through both of those. We've got 2 loops on our hook. And then pull another one through there. Now that you've made 1 row, you've got something to hold on to with your non-dominant hand, okay? So you can hold on to this, and you're gonna find that it's a lot easier to do the second row than the first row. So you have already gotten through the hardest part. So we do that again, all right? And then we are going to be doing this again like that. Go through under both, pull up a loop, and pull the loop through. Okay, go under both, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through, and we do that until we get to the very end. When you get to the end of your chain, or when you get to the end of your row, you're going to come to that stitch marker that we put in there, and that will let you know that that is the last stitch that you're going to put that into. Now if you're still on the first row, that's okay. No pressure to go fast or slow. You will get the hang of it. Just know that you can just rewind back to when there's just 1 stitch marker there on the table, and you'll be able to find out how to do that turning chain and go into the next row, okay? So I hope you guys are not getting too frustrated. If your stitches are not perfect, that is fine. That is normal. We can't do this perfectly when we first start out. Those of you who can, well, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 of you that can, but most of us are human. So no worries. Just practice it. If you are starting to get really frustrated and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I bought this yarn and Kassi told me and all this stuff, it's just because we've got to practice. We've got so many more rows to go through, and it doesn't matter what a washcloth looks like. If you're going to be washing your dishes with it, I don't think the dishes are going to mind if every stitch isn't perfect, okay? But yeah, so for this single crochet, again, you go under those 2 loops there. Pull up a loop, then you've got 2 loops on your hook, then you pull another loop through that. You will notice that crochet is basically a lot about loops. I kind of think about it as tying a knot though, because in knitting, it's more about loops than even in crochet, but you just basically are arranging loops in a way that makes a fabric, okay? You're going to notice that if you were hoping to make a nice drapey fabric, the single crochet is not going to provide a whole lot of drape. Okay, if you make a blanket out of single crochet, it's going to be a little bit more stiff. You can soften that up by putting liquid fabric softener in with your work when you wash it the first time, and then it'll soften up. But in general, a single crochet is going to be a more tight stitch that is not going to give you a whole lot of drape. It's pretty good stitch for cloth, or like washcloth though. And you can definitely make a blanket with just a single crochet stitch. I've made blankets with just a single crochet stitch. But here, I personally am about to end this second row. Okay. And as I come upon this, I see I've got 2 stitches left, because there's a stitch there, and then here's the stitch with the stitch marker in it. And again, you don't have to have a stitch marker on it. You should be able to see that you have 2 stitches left when you get to the end here. But I know that this is a correct stitch right there. This is the last stitch. So I go under both loops. I go under both loops, right? Well, I'm trying to. And again, this is why I'm doing it live. No editing at all. Sometimes you can be doing it since, okay, for like 30 years or more, and it'll still be a little bit tough. When I go slow, it's harder for me. So this is kind of difficult for me. But you go under 2 loops. You've got that first loop on your hook. You pull another loop through it. You pull another loop through that. And if you want to, go ahead and put that stitch marker there. Okay? It's not as important to do it now as it is to do it once you do the turning chain. Okay? So I'm going to put the next stitch marker out here so everybody knows that we're on row 3. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing we did the last time. We're going to chain 1. Okay? Turn our work. All right? Now right there where we put that stitch marker, we're going to take that stitch marker out. We're going to put our first crochet into that. We're not going to put it into that one. We're going to put it into there. Okay? So we're going to put that into that last stitch marker, that where that stitch marker was. Pull up 1 loop. Okay? So you have 2 loops on your hook. Pull up 1 more, and now you've got 1 loop on your hook again. And in that stitch that you just made, okay, we're going to put that stitch marker there. It's more important to put it in at this point than put it in that first time, okay? So now we're on row 3. If you have come this far, your work should look something like this. If it does not look perfect, again, don't worry about it. We are just practicing and practicing and practicing. Okay, so now we're on our 3rd row. We're going to do the exact same thing before. This time I'm going to go a little bit faster. So for those of you who are like, whoa, slow down. I haven't figured this out. Just rewind it, go to the first couple of rows and just keep going through that until you get it. Okay, you don't have to watch this front to, from beginning to end perfectly. Okay, we are just learning how to do this. Every time that I go into a new row, I'm just going to start talking to you guys about what all's going on in my life and that kind of stuff. So you're not missing anything unless you want to know that stuff. Again, you can speed up or slow down the video. If you just play around with the settings down below the video, it's different on your computer versus your phone. I do not watch YouTube on my phone, so I don't know where the controls are there, but if you're on a computer, it'll be at the bottom right-hand corner. And if you're left-handed, it'll be at the bottom left-hand corner if you've got that orientation. And you'll click on it. There's probably like some dots there. You'll click on that and you can go to video speed. Now if you speed it up, I'm going to start sounding a little hyper. You know, if you speed it up too fast, it's going to sound like I've swallowed helium. And if you slow it down, then I'll start talking slower, and my stitches will be slower, okay? And you'll be able to follow along. If you don't need to continue to follow along because you think you've got it down, then that's fine. If you find that the ends, okay, of your rows start feeling like they're going out or going in, then just you can rewind the video and start over, or you can go out and get some stitch markers, or you can start counting every stitch. Now, the reason I use stitch markers is so I don't have to count, and ideally you're not going to have to count at all. Most people don't have to count their stitches when they're crocheting a single stitch or double stitch crochet. You know, there's some advanced techniques where you're going to have to count, and that I'm talking about mosaic crochet, okay? But when you're just starting, all you got to do is crochet to the end of the line, chain one, turn, and then you've got it going. All right, so we're on the last stitch of the third row. I'm going to open this up. This time I'm not going to put it in until after I've done the first stitch of the row. So we go in, pull up 2 loops, pull a loop through, then we chain 1. This is called a turning chain, okay? Then you turn your work, and then we go right back into this stitch right here, okay? Because remember, this is your turning chain. Go right back into that stitch, put your hook through that, pull up a second loop, pull another loop through that, then you take your stitch marker and you put it underneath both loops and clasp it shut. Okay, not all stitch markers are going to look like these diaper pins, but these, the ones that open and close are the ones that you can use for crochet. If you see stitch markers and they don't open and close, those are knitting stitch markers. Knitting's a little bit different from crochet. So, again, you just see the next row, the next hole, or what is actually a stitch, and you go underneath both loops. Okay, pull up another loop, then you've got 2 loops on your hook, and then pull another loop through, okay? And you're not going to be adding or losing stitches because you keep putting the stitch marker on that first stitch in every single row so that you know exactly where you begin and end. All right, so yeah, I have a cat. He's really, really special to me. His name is Baby, but his given name is Shaman. I wanted him to have a kind of a mystical name because cats are kind of mystical to me. So I named him Shaman after, in some cultures, there's a person who dreams for the whole community. And that person receives information from divine spirits or the universe, and he or she will have the ability to interpret those dreams. And sometimes they're called shamans, sometimes they're called dream walkers, sometimes they're called dream workers. And they're basically just people who are kind of like the religious leaders sometimes. Sometimes a person might be in a community that has a shaman and has a religion in addition to that. And you'll notice that in just about any religion you look into, there is a mystical aspect of dreams that's acknowledged in that religion. At least some people, within most religious texts, there's going to be 1 or 2 people or more that will receive divine guidance through dreams. And so I wanted my cat to have kind of a mystical name, but I didn't want it to be too common, like, you know, I could have named him Angel, you know, or something like that, but I wanted it to be kind of cool like that, so I call him Shaman. But then I started calling him Baby, because when I got him he was a baby, so now I just call him Baby, or Baby Shaman. And so he's a tuxedo cat, and he's the one that might be chirping in the background. He hasn't actually since we started, but he gets excited about those birds. He loves birds, so I put a lot of bird feeders next to his window so that he can watch the birds come in and get their food, and they're out right now. So we're at the end of this row here, and we're going to put another there. Okay, we're going to chain and turn. Okay, so put another stitch marker out here. I am not certain if I did that for that last row, and if I didn't, I am so sorry, but it's the same regardless which row you're on. When you're single crocheting, you chain, turn, and that first stitch right there, the one where that stitch marker was in, you put that stitch in, okay, and then you do that first stitch in that row, and then something you can do when you want to put your stuff aside is just pull that loop super big, you know, but you put that stitch marker right here, okay, and then you can continue on. So yeah, so I have that cat, and we've got other cats. My family is a cat family, so everybody in the family has their own cat. So my partner has one, and my son has one. My son's is a big fat orange cat, and he's on a diet, but he's going to be overweight no matter what. And then my daughter's cat is a Persian cat. My partner's cat is a cat that he met through an unusual circumstance. Our dog brought that to him right before our dog was hit by a car, and so he what he was going to do was give it to we'll try to find another home for it, but then he decided to keep it. So that's a special cat. And then we have one extra cat. I call it the backup cat, and that's our oldest cat, and she is very, very skittish. She is so scared of everything. They all have different personalities, and they're all fixed and all of that. I personally think 5 cats is too much. I think some people in the family would like to have more. And I think for our house size, we are very lucky to have a nice house. Maybe 3 cats is good, but 5, oh my goodness, it's too many cats. But Baby, my cat, he is. I had my very, very first cat that I had when I was living by myself was a tuxedo cat, and she was amazing. And I got her right when me and my partner started dating. And then we, when we ended up getting married and having kids, and she was there with me for like my whole adult life. And she passed almost 2 years ago, and she's buried on our property. And this year I would like to plant a butterfly garden around her grave. I think she'd like that. I think it would be a nice way to make that loss more peaceful. And gosh, when I lost her, it was terrible. It was really, really bad. Okay, now you probably just saw me do that turning chain, and I turned my work. I'm going to go back into that stitch. Okay, pull a loop up. We've got 2 loops. pull another loop up, and then I'm going to put this stitch marker in this stitch here. And again, I personally don't do this when I'm crocheting unless I'm starting a new project, or it's very, very important for me to make sure that I don't get distracted and maybe accidentally add a stitch, or subtract one. So that's how you keep your edges very straight, okay? All right, so we're on another row, and we are just going to keep going. If you don't want to sit here and chat with me while I am doing this, that is totally fine. You don't have to, but you will probably want to go to the end of this so that you can see how to end your rows when you're done with it, okay? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into a square, okay? So when we're done, we're going to have a square dishcloth, and then I'll teach you how to tie off. And if you're just like, okay, I've got it, now I want to go on and move to another project, that's cool. You can go do that, and just make sure to go to the end and find out how to tie off so you can secure that. Also, you guys, if you enjoy this, or if you want to keep learning, I'm going to be putting out videos daily, okay? This channel's got daily videos, so make sure that you subscribe, or you can just bookmark this channel if you want, or bookmark this particular video so that you can come back to it later. And go ahead and come back to it later, and you can learn more stitches. I'm going to put up the double crochet tomorrow, okay? And we're going to make another washcloth. We're going to make another dishcloth out of that double crochet. So again, this is something that I am going to be doing daily, and I know a lot of stitches. We are going to learn so many stitches, and then we're going to start learning patterns, and I'm going to start teaching you how to make some of those beautiful blankets I showed on one of my other videos. If you have learned something from this, or if you would like to follow along when I start getting into the more intermediate and advanced stitches, go ahead and like it and subscribe. Let me know that what I'm doing is valuable to you. All right. For those of you who may have a lot of nervous energy, let's say you might have anxiety, maybe you have depression, maybe you have something, else, like maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and you've got insomnia, maybe you're just kind of a nervous person and all of that. This is a really good way to get out that nervous energy while also being creative. So I just did my turning chain. I turned. I'm going to put that underneath those two, pull up a loop, and pull another loop through that. Then I'm going to put my stitch marker right there so I don't lose track of where my stitches are. Again, if I was doing this on my own, I wouldn't be using the stitch markers, but I want to teach you guys how to do it this way first, because that would have saved me a lot of heartache when I was first learning. Because when I first learned, I kept picking up stitches and dropping stitches, and that way you've got this nice clean edge and you know exactly where to go next. So anyway, yeah, I am not too worried about subscribers or likes and all of that, but what I am concerned about is that I want to know if what I am posting is valuable. So if you guys want to leave me a comment, or if you guys want to like the video, just to let me know this is something you want to see more of. For those of you who have crocheted for a while and think, if you think that this tutorial is a good one, go ahead and like it so I know. Leave in the comments some things that you'd like me to show you guys. Just chit chat if you want. You can respond to anything that I'm talking about here, or when I'm talking about my cat, losing a pet, that kind of stuff. We can just keep talking about that if you want. Gotta admit, I don't usually talk this much, but we're here, we're crafting together. And hey, if you are an advanced crocheter, you can always just kind of sit with me and we can crochet together. when I'm doing these beginning stitches here. And once I start posting stitches that maybe you don't know, then we can learn together. And for those of you who skipped the introduction for whatever reason, we're using a 4-weight cotton yarn, and every time I teach a new stitch, we're making a dishcloth out of it, okay? So we have plenty of practice time, and so you guys have something, and dishcloths don't care if they're perfectly neat, you know, so you can use it for something. We're using cotton because cotton does not melt. Acrylic will melt because it is plastic if it comes into contact with too much heat. Now, most likely you're not going to be able to create enough heat in a sink to melt it, right? But let's say you've got your dishcloth in the sink and you've got to pour out boiling water, for example, from your stove, and it hits there. It might start looking a little funky. Or maybe, you know, maybe you forget that this is a dishcloth and you put it on your table to use as a hot pad, and then you pick it up and it melts, you know, and you want to know why. It's because you're not really supposed to use acrylic with heat. You can still use it as a cloth, just know that it can't get too hot. You might want to put it in your bathroom or something like that. Cotton, on the other hand, does not melt like that. Cotton's very sturdy. It'll burn, but it won't melt like that. So you can use them as hot pads if you want. Just know that this particular stitch is not going to be thick enough to protect your fingers if you use this as a way to take something hot out of the oven. But you can put something hot on it to protect your counters or your table. So it's another way you can use this. Some people like to make up little coasters with this, placemats, you know, in just one simple crochet stitch. Single crochet is often thought of as a simple one. Sometimes people find it a little tedious because the double crochet definitely makes a bigger work faster. So, but we are just continuing on back and forth across every single row. Oops, see, this is what I'm talking about splitting. Don't worry about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my crochet hook out. I'm going to pull this out. We've got that one loop that I start with on my hook. I'm going to put that through there. I'm going to go underneath that, pull up a loop. This one, I know it's split, so I get a little bit careful there. Pull up another loop through there, and we're good. Now, here's the thing. When you're working, some fibers, like cotton, some thread is going to split easier than others. And as you become a yarn snob, you'll find certain brands that do not split as easily. And you might find that you favor those brands. That's fine, you know. But again, when you're making dishcloths and everything, it doesn't really have to look perfect. So we're not going to worry about splitting, and I'm not going to tell you guys to go out and invest like $20 on a huge cotton cone that's going to end up not splitting, but cost you too much money. If you decide that you don't like crocheting or you don't want to learn more, I don't want you to waste a whole bunch of money. You can just get one of these cones, or you can get a little ball like this. Sugar and cream, peaches and cream. As long as you look on the label and you see that it is made, it is a 4-weight right here that says the weight. And as long as you can see that it is a cotton. And let me show you where it says that. It's probably right in front of me and I'm not seeing it. Cannot believe this. It should say 100% cotton somewhere on here and I'm not seeing it. I feel really dumb. It should say cotton on here somewhere. Maybe it does and I'm just not seeing it. Oh, here we go. There it is. Kind of printed a little small. Okay. Let's make sure that that zooms in there. My camera's supposed to zoom in. And it says made in Canada from 100% cotton. And if you don't speak English as your first language, then it's printed in a couple other languages. I think French, maybe Spanish. I'll look there and see. Yeah, that's the first one. I'm not certain what that is. I mean, I don't know French, so I'm assuming it's French though. And then the second one, and then the third one is Spanish. So you'll be able to read it if you speak French or Spanish, at least in this particular brand. I'm going to put this off to the side. Again, on the inside of these, there's sometimes patterns. And if you want to collect patterns that are free and all of that, just go ahead and keep that. You could scan it so that you have it in your computer. There's some splitting again. Just whatever you need to in order to take advantage of those free patterns. A lot of those free patterns also are easy to do and have tutorials as well. And I'll even do a tutorial on some of those patterns eventually. Okay? Again, I'm posting a video a day to this channel, so I think that I might not be putting those stitch markers out for every row like I said I would, and I feel kind of bad about that. But like I said before, we're just going back and forth. And we're going to continue to work this until it is a square. So I think that what I'm going to do, because my throat's starting to get a little sore, and I told you guys earlier, my son had something. You know, I heard the flu was going around his school, but he had something, and I might be getting it. So I don't want to make my voice run out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this last row here with you, and then I'm going to go off camera to finish this up, okay? And once it's finished, then I'll be able to come back and show you how to bind off, okay? So if you want to finish right here, that's fine. If you want to go ahead and make that full dishcloth, that's fine too. And when I say full, I just mean make a square. That's fine too. The fabric, you know, you can fold it over like that, and when it makes a triangle, it'll be a square. I mean, I'm assuming you guys know that, but you would be surprised some of the really simple things that you would think that people would know that I don't get. It's just the way my brain works sometimes, or doesn't work, right? But yeah, I'm just going to finish this last row with you right here, and then I'm going to go off camera and finish the rest of this so that it's a square, and then I'll come back and I will show you how to tie off, and then you will have your first dishcloth made. Alrighty? Sounds pretty simple and easy. And then tomorrow, if you want to come in, we've got going to be teaching you the double crochet tomorrow. And tomorrow's Monday, as long as I have a mystery box, because we've got inclement weather here. As long as I get a mystery box in the mail, I'll be doing a Mystery Monday where I unbox a mystery yarn box. Some of that will be going into a giveaway, of course. And I will post the double crochet. Then the next day I'll probably share some tips, maybe go over what I've been working on lately, and do the half double crochet stitch with you guys. You come to the end, you chain, turn, that's your turning chain, you go back into that last stitch there, do the single crochet there, and then you put this stitch marker in there, Again, you don't have to, as long as you're real mindful of what that last stitch looks like. But if you're just beginning, sometimes it's better to just make sure that you're real careful about that. All right, guys, so like I said, we've got content. Content is going to be posting every single day. After this first week, we're going to go into some more advanced stitches. I posted an initial video earlier today about how to start off with your chaining and all of that. So if you have not seen that, you can look at that. If you've liked this video so far, go ahead and like it. You might want to subscribe. You want to leave a comment, tell me how I'm doing. That'd be great too. I am about to go off camera so I can finish this, and then I will come back when I am done. All right, so see you then. All right, so it's a little bit later in the Kennedy household. We have had dinner, and I went ahead and had some tea with that lemon, tea with lemon in it. And so I feel a little bit less scratchy in my throat. So I have finished. I kind of pulled on it a little bit. You'll find that the fabric you make out of cotton is very stretchy. So I've made my square, and I'm down to the last 3 stitches, and I wanted to show you how to bind off. Okay. Also, I want to apologize if it's a little bit darker than it was before. It is after sunset here again, so I don't have as much natural light to work with, but I personally get a little bit overwhelmed when I have a whole lot of lights on in the house. So I have got just as much light as I can stand. So I hope it doesn't, so I hope that you can actually see. Also, I'm going to go ahead and give that same disclaimer. My cat, he is so excited about this channel. He wants to be on it. And he's decided to jump up on my table. Do you want to say hi? See it, look right in there. You want to say hi? Oh, look, it's baby shaman. Look. All those people can see you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let him get down from this table. So, all right, so we're down to the last 3 stitches. Hopefully you have made a square. Hopefully you have got the single crochet stitch down. If not, just go ahead and keep working on it. If you don't need to make a square, if you've just made as many rows as you feel like making, that's good too. I'm just going to teach you how to bind off when you're done with your work, okay? So we're going to do the last 3 stitches together again. You start out with a loop on your hook. Put your crochet underneath those 2 loops, pull through, and then pull 1 loop through both loops, okay? Got a loop on the hook, pull up 1, pull through. And here we are at our very last stitch, and we are done. Okay, so now that we're done, what do we do? Because we've got it like attached to all this yarn. Well, what I do is that I'll pull through another loop, and then I'll clip it off, and I remove the excess yarn. Okay, so we're going to put that cone off to the side. We don't need it, so don't really need our stitch markers anymore. Okay, so you pull that through. The easiest way to do this is to just keep pulling on that yarn until it turns into this little bitty knot. You know, that's gonna hold, okay? But there's something called weaving in your ends that I was never taught how to do. And I mean, I learned how to do it by myself, but if you don't like these ends, there's a couple of things you can do. One, you can just cut them off like really close like that. Some people, that's fine. And really, these knots aren't going to come out. But weaving in requires either a needle, or you can even use a hook for it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use a hook to weave in your ends. So I'm not too concerned with exactly how mine looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go in down here and I'm going to pull my yarn through there. And then I'm going to just kind of twist it around, pull it through here. Okay. And then you see how there's these little loops right here underneath here? Okay. Right there and there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hook underneath there. Now if you have a needle, then you'll put your string through the needle. Okay, your yarn through the needle, and then you'll use a needle to do that. And I'll show you how to do that when we do the double crochet stitch. But for the single crochet stitch, I'm going to just show you how to use your hook. And just so you know, there are yarn needles out there if you want to purchase one. They're not that expensive either, but you don't. But I'm basically showing you that you don't have to. So we pulled it through some of those. I'm going to go ahead and pull it through this right under there. Sometimes these are real tight and it's hard to get them through, which is also fine. Okay, so that's woven in pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and snip it, and it'll just kind of disappear into my work. Now if you look real closely, you can see it. All right, if you look really closely, you can see it right there, especially if you're using variegated yarn or yarn with different colors in it, like this one that I'm using. But eventually you're not going to notice it. And what I did was I pulled it down and I went in and out of a couple of those rows on the end, and then I pulled it through these right here. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here. Now, sometimes you're going to just want to cut off the excess because you're really not going to have to weave in that much. Here's a tip. If you get a yarn, if you get some yarn, you want to remember what this looks like, put it on the inside and tape it in there. That way you'll remember what it looks like, and you can just keep this in a scrap drawer. And that way you'll remember that, oh, when I buy this, this is what it looks like, and you'll be able to remember that yarn color. So that's another little tip and trick there. I'll probably post that separate from just this tutorial, but here I'm doing again. I'm going to take the crochet hook and put it through some of these loops at the end here. I'm going to pull it down here. I'm going to, it's just kind of weaving it back and forth between those. Once I've got it down a little bit, so I've wove it in going down. Now I'm going to go across here. Let's see here. I'm going to try to get it through these. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to get in there. You might want to use a smaller hook. Let's see if I have a smaller hook right here. Yeah, I do. I think, yeah. This is a 4.5 millimeter, so it's going to go underneath those a lot easier. And I'm going to pull this through underneath here, okay? And the way I do it is I just put that, it's the same as with a larger hook, but this is a size 4.5 millimeter, and we're going to just grab onto that yarn and pull it up under those loops. Okay, there we go. Pull it up under those. Let's see if we can get it under another one. Or let's just go ahead and weave it in here, in between the stitches like this. Okay. There we go. On this side, let's go ahead and move under a loop here. And pull it through that too. That way it's really woven in there. And then again, just clip it off. Make sure you don't clip your stitches, but that'd be kind of hard as long as you're being careful. And here is our first dishcloth. All right, so we have learned how to crochet the single crochet here. And what we used for this, if you used everything, is some cotton yarn. I used a cone. We used 2 stitch markers, a J-hook, and some scissors. Also, I want to go ahead and apologize for the orientation of the camera. I'm still learning how to do this upside down, so I think you might have seen some things upside down, and I apologize for that. The important part is that I wanted you to see me crocheting from the perspective of somebody actually crocheting. In the next video I make that's a tutorial, I'll make sure that that's angled better, and I'll remember the orientation better then. If you like this tutorial, or if you'd just like to learn more tutorials, because I am going to get into a lot more advanced stitches and do some really major tutorials, go ahead and subscribe if you want, because that way you will be sure to get all of the videos as a notification each time. If you hit that bell, we'll go ahead and send an email to you every single time we upload a video. Now, if you don't want to have to get a whole bunch of emails, then that's fine. You can just subscribe and just go to your YouTube page, and it'll be on your subscriptions. But yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and like it, and you can leave me a comment and tell me what you thought about the video. Tell me any kind of stitches that you'd like to learn, that kind of stuff. And we are going to be posting at least once a day. I did check my tracking on some mail, and it looks like I will have a mystery box Monday tomorrow. And I will also post that double crochet video tomorrow as well. So you will get some content tomorrow. I will see you soon. Have a really wonderful day, and dream of what makes you happy.